Saki, or H. Munro, seems to be a writer that takes seriously, perhaps ironically seriously, the idea of art itself, and that is what we will have. That is of what we will have an exploration today. That and pretentiousness, as we take on the Schartz-Metterklume method by Saki / H. Munro. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where literature lives. This is a video that will appear in the short story discussion playlist here on the channel, and as such it will have 3 different sections. Number 1, a So What Happened recap of the short story. Number 2, a literary criticism section about the story, the Schartz-Metterklume method. And number 3, a writer's corner, where we talk a little bit about what it is that we can take from this short story as writers ourselves. So, what happened? We start with Lady Carlotta killing time at the wayside station. Lady Carlotta is the sympathetic type, and lost in a fit of sympathy, she misses the train. She is promptly mistaken for a governess by a receiving party, Mrs. Quaybarl. Lady Carlotta, having nothing to do, decides to go with it. Why not? We're here. Let's go with it. Now she's Miss Hope. See that? Miss Hope. M-I-S-H-O-P-E. As if your hope were wrong in its placement. Miss Hope. She leaves with Quaybarl only to learn that she'll be teaching the Quaybarl children. During dinner, when confronted on her method of teaching, well, first off, she throws out some drama. She decides to completely make up a story about someone that she's asked about, and he's a drunk and she deserves the treatment she gets, all of this sort of thing, which is pretty funny. But she says, don't worry about their teaching. I will use the Schartz-Metterklume method. And she's just making it up as she goes, right? She has no Schartz-Metterklume method. It doesn't mean anything. She's just saying it to say it. And the Quaybarls, well, they act like they know what's going on. They act as if they know what she's talking about, as if the Schartz-Metterklume method, well, of course you will. The next morning, Miss Quaybarl catches the children role-playing, or catches the children making hostages, of the lodge keeper's daughters. They are in strange places of the house and the yard, taking hostages. Lady Carlotta defends this by saying that role-playing is the Schartz-Metterklume method. That's how you get kids to actually learn history, is that they have to act it out themselves. And Miss Quaybarl fires her, gets nasty and fires her. Eventually, the real Miss Hope shows up. She had mistaken the day where their meeting was supposed to happen, and Lady Carlotta gets to her destination, and she is dismissive of the entire affair in which she had just taken part. So, what are the literary criticisms that we can take from this short story? Well, it would help if I had my book present, but this is a short story, if you ask me, that is about, and this is about the pretensions of the upper class. So, the pretentiousness of the upper class. What are we talking about with that? Well, the wealthy people develop pretentiousness, these things about which they are sticklers, in order to differentiate themselves from the working class, treating the working class with disdain. The same way, in the very opening paragraph of this short story, Lady Carlotta is waiting for the train, and she sees a horse being mistreated in the distance. Then, then, in the roadway, she saw a horse struggling with more than an ample load, and a carter of the sort that seems to bear a sullen hatred against the animal that helps him to earn a living. So you have, in the middle of the street, a person making his living with a horse, and he has overburdened the horse, and he seems to be disdainful of the horse. Well, what are the wealthy? The wealthy, a lot of times, they're business owners, they are asset owners, and they make their wealth from the work done by the working class. The same way that the horse rider or the cart loader makes his living from the labor provided by the horse. Lady Carlotta is observing that this cart loader working the horse hates it, the same way that the wealthy hate, are disdainful of, the working class. A little bit later in that same paragraph, about Lady Carlotta, certain of her acquaintances were wont to give her plentiful admonition as to the undesirability of her interfering on behalf of a distressed animal, such interference being, quote, none of her business, end quote. Only once she had put the doctrine of non-interference into practice, when one of its most eloquent exponents had been besieged for nearly 3 hours in a small and extremely uncomfortable maitree by an angry boar-pig, while Lady Carlotta, on the other side of the fence, had proceeded with the watercolor sketch she was engaged on, and refused to interfere between the boar and his prisoner. It is to be feared that she lost the friendship of the ultimately rescued lady. On this occasion she merely lost the train, which gave way to the first sign of impatience it had shown throughout the journey, and steamed off without her. So, in this case, she is showing sympathy for that horse that represents the working class. And because she is sympathetic there, her train leaves her. She is stranded. She is then mistaken for someone who is working for the upper class. And she decides to give them a little bit of the business. So that is maybe the entire message of this short story. The second thing worth talking about here from a literary criticism section is this. Lady Carlotta has the children pretend to be the makers of history. She has them dress up and go out and act out what it was that had happened in the past. She chides Mrs. Quabarl by saying, we can stop the lesson right now, but if you want them to think that in history those women simply escaped, that is on you. Suggesting that the real thing that was going on here was the children were learning the intentions behind those individuals who had made history. Very interesting. Maybe that would work. But the question that it raises to me, is this the way that history is actually made? By people pretending. In this short story, the only active character is Lady Carlotta. Everyone else is kind of acted upon here. Lady Carlotta takes the action forward. She is acting as if she were someone else. The way that she makes the children act as if they were the makers of history. This is an interesting commentary because this short story does read like a chiding of the upper class. The upper class are the people who make things happen, right? The upper class are the ones who start the businesses. Us working folk have to work there. The main thrust of this short story is to attack the pretentiousness of the upper class. What is pretentiousness, really? If not acting a certain way when it is not authentic. Pretentiousness is acting in a way. Is this entire thing a commentary on the upper class, on the wealthy, on the people making things move by acting a certain way, and then a recognition that throughout history, that's been what happened. People acting a certain way are the ones who changed things. Act as if, right? We get this sort of inspirational message through or from was a Boiler Room? Is that the name of the movie where a character was saying basically act as if you are the big swingin' in this company because you're going to have to act that way, and it's all acting. It was a Ben Affleck, Giovanni Ribisi movie. Act as if. And that is kind of what happens in this short story. So, moving forward, what are the writer's lessons that we can take from this? I want to ask if this is a story or an anecdote. And I think the actual answer is an anecdote, but I think that it could have been a story, if you want to talk about pretentiousness. And I think that it could have been a story had we never gotten the bit of writing about Mrs. or Miss Hope showing up, and we never got Lady Carlotta ending up at her destination. These two things, from a literature standpoint, we did not need. They do make the story feel more quaint. They do make the story feel more personable. They do maybe make the story feel more whole, but I don't think that they are necessary, for one, and I don't think that they actually add anything to the story. And I certainly don't think they add anything to the commentary. The way this short story would have ended, had you not had those bits, is with Mrs. Quaybarl firing Lady Carlotta, pretending to be Miss Hope when she recognizes that Miss Hope cannot do the job. Were we left to actually assume whether or not the real Miss Hope ever showed up, I think it would be a more interesting ending. As it is, we are left with just one question at the end. The question of, what did those Quaybarls make of having this stranger in their home? Had we never seen Miss Hope show up, we would be left with three questions. Did Miss Hope ever show up? What did the Quaybarls figure about a stranger staying in their home? How did they reconcile that? And then, what happened with Lady Carlotta? Did she ever get where she was going? And the last thing is here, the last writer's corner note, is this complete? It certainly has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It certainly feels as if there is some type of commentary going on inside of it. It does not feel like a real piece to me. It feels as if there is something missing. I think part of what that is that Lady Carlotta never changes. We see no change in Lady Carlotta. Perhaps this, screw it, I'll go with it. Maybe that is the change in Lady Carlotta. But since we don't know her before that moment, and we do know her as the only things we know about her before that moment is that she is a bit of an alternative kind of person, in that she has had all of these problems because she is standing up for animals and whatnot. Because we know that, we know she's a little bit wonky. We don't know if this willingness to go along with being mistaken for someone else, we don't know if that is in that wonkiness or if that has evolved in her during this story. So I think that, I think that what that is, from a writer's perspective, the reason this story feels incomplete to me is that we have one active character, and that's not the character that changes. You see the Quabarls change. You see them react to her at dinner. You see them ultimately fire her. That is a change. You see the kids who are we're led to kind of believe that they are active children, that they're active in their own education. But when they're hanging out with Miss Hope, they're completely disconnected from their lessons. So they change, right? But the one character who is actually active, the one character that we actually care about in this story, I don't think ever changes. So that is a lesson to take with you as a writer. It is not just a lesson to take with you as a writer if you want that story to feel complete, but also a way that if you are engineering a story to feel incomplete, that you can do it. That is all I have for this short story discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.